Okay, good evening, everyone. So before we start the debate, I would like to ask all of the debaters to state your name and your position, starting from the government side. Please be ready and open your camera.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abdurrahman Muqaddam, and I am the Prime Minister for this debate.
My name is Muhammad Irfan, and I am the Deputy Prime Minister for this motion.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Faiz. I will be the government whip.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Ashraf bin Shari. I will be representing Fpsk as the leader of opposition.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I am Wijdan Yash, and I will be the Deputy Leader of Opposition for Fpsk.
Assalamualaikum. I am Sabrina Batrisha. Today I'll be the whip for the opposition team.
All right, the House will come to order. I am pleased to welcome you all to this quarterfinal of Using Vice Chancellor Debate Championship 2022. I would like to remind all the members of the floor they may only raise points of information in a constructive speech and only after the first minute and before the last minute of speech. Also, please ensure that your internet connection is stable and your voice is audible. Are there any inquiries before we start? Okay, with that, I call upon the Prime Minister to deliver his speech. The floor is yours.
Excuse me, before we begin, is it possible to use one of my friend's devices because my internet connection isn't the best right now?
Can he enter using the link?
Sorry?
Using different device from the same member of the group or?
Yeah, same team.
Okay.
All right. I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And good evening, respected adjudicator, my fellow debaters, and any other audience members present today. The topic for this evening's debate is the House will forbid religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters. The stakeholders for this debate are the citizens, the political movements themselves, so the government parties, and the religious leaders. We define religious leaders as anyone who has a group of followers, whether that be 10 or the whole nation, only in secular countries. So we are only specifically talking about secular countries and not talking about the theocratic nations whose entire government system is based upon religion. So our religious leaders are the ones that promote a certain religion, either one that they made up or one that is common. They should have a large number of followers. We also define publicly speaking as holding outdoor gatherings, elevating the opinion of one or more political parties, or expressing their views on social media or any other form of public media such as television or newspaper. Our mechanism of action is we will impose a law and visit major and minor religious institutions to make sure religious leaders know about this new stance. This new stance will completely impose a ban upon them speaking publicly about political matters. To allow them to still have a voice in government proceedings, we will allow them to have an ambassador or a consultant to reach out to the government via representatives. So now that this debate is characterized, we should talk about why this debate is actually taking place. There has always been an influence held by religious leaders upon the public due to the emotions that they generate within the public because of their religious stances. How is it that religions, which supposedly are there to espouse peace, love, and harmony, are so commonly connected with intolerance, violence, and aggression? So some people, like some scholars like William Kavanaugh, contend that even when extremists use theological texts to justify their actions, religious violence is not religious at all, but rather a perversion of core teachings. Basically, what's happening here is people are using their religious teachings to impose their own ideologies and to advance their own agenda. Even religions which are commonly associated with peace, such as Buddhism, are not absent from this definition. Usually arises when core beliefs that define a group's identity are fundamentally challenged. Often it's with community groups that are inside, and they reach out against other outgroup communities, especially with the help of fundamentalist religious leaders. So my main argument here today is that religion is definitely a good thing. It promotes peace, harmony, social activism, and allows for people to come together. However, there's a big if to that statement. However, it can just as easily be flipped on its head by those with malicious intent. That is why we are not advocating for a stop to all religions. However, as a safety measure, as a precaution to promote the safety and the well-being of our citizens.
Yeah,
Yes.
So you're stripping off the right for these people to speak up about political matter just because of a few people that is imposing their own ideology?
Okay. The safety of the general public is much more important than one person promoting their own ideologies. And as my second speaker will be talking about, religious leaders can be corrupt. They are not immune to accepting bribes to those from a religious party to gain an unfair political advantage. And how do you know that even these religious leaders are conveying the correct version of their religion? There is no way to monitor this, and there's no way to prevent this from happening. So that will be my second speaker's argument. Our burden of proof is that religious leaders have the power to incite and influence the public towards religiously driven and motivated violence and sectarianism. So not allowing religious leaders to speak on political matters is the best way to maintain peace in society. Now you might ask, where has this occurred? Where is an example of this? Religion is something that's good. However, there has been multiple examples of religious violence in many countries that are supposed to be secular. For example, from December 17 to 19, India grappled with some of the darkest days in its history of communal violence. At a conference held in Haridwar, 150 miles north of New Delhi, an open call to kill Muslims was made by one of the religious leaders in the presence of the BJP. The BJP is the main political party in India at the moment, and they are motivated by trying to convert India, which has historically been able to live together harmoniously with all the different cultures, different religions, Islam, Christianity, Hinduism. They were all living together. However, now, because of this ruling party, they are promoting Hinduism. They are promoting an extreme right-wing form of Hinduism. This particular religious leader said, and I quote, "If 100 of us are ready to kill 2 million of them, meaning Muslims, then we will win." This is a clear indication that religious leaders have the power to incite violence. And we have to prioritize, we have to look over here. What is more important, the safety of the citizens or giving the right to speech to one of these religious leaders who may not even be portraying the right version of their religion, and trying to further their own agenda. So with that argument, I end my speech, and I have conclusively proven that forbidding religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters is the most effective form of maintaining safety and security for the citizens in society. Thank you.
Thank you to the Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 8 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon the Leader of Opposition to deliver his speech. The floor is yours.
Am I audible? Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I will start my speech in 1, 2, 3. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. A very good evening. I bid to the honored educators, worthy opponents of the government, fellow comrades of the opposition, and the guests of the floor. So on today's debate, we'll be debating on the motion that this House would forbid religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters. And as the opposition side, we should see at the end of the debate that this motion shall fall. Firstly, I want to touch about the Prime Minister saying about just quoting on this debate, only saying that this motion will be expressed in secular countries. It is the point of having the religious leaders in themselves, and in secular countries, the politics doesn't even care about the politics are even more separated from the religious. So there are no point of having religious leaders in the countries as such. So firstly, I want to rebut the mechanism that having an ambassador for the speech of the to represent the speech of the religious leaders. How can we make sure that the ambassadors themselves are not corrupted by the government and speaking on behalf with bias towards the government? Because as we know, only things that we have said to our own mouths can be what we have claimed that we have spoken. That is the flaw that I have seen in the mechanism given from the government. So moving on, I want to reiterate that these religious leaders, whether it be in a secular country or not, they are still a human. If they express their ideologies, which may or may not express. Sorry, let me continue just for a moment.
Okay.
These religious leaders still have a right to speak up on their opinions. Okay, what is the view, right?
Do the citizens not have a right to feel safe? Of course, people have a right to speak up, but then if everyone has a right to speak up, anyone can say what they want, and that can impose on the rights of other people. So what gives these religious leaders more of a right to speak about violence or incentivize extremism?
Okay, so with that, I want to reiterate that if how can we consider a true religious leader without a big following? Well, is wait a minute, sorry. I take back. um, sorry. This I want to rebut the POI given by the Prime Minister that the spreading of ideologies do not come alone from the leaders. Some other radical groups can also give this kind of to spread these ideologies in the people of the country. So why does only the government only targets the religious leaders for spreading to speak up about their opinion, especially on the political matter. One thing I want to say that the mechanism that has been given by the government only acts throughout the if they are in a face-to-face situation. How about the tensions that may build up towards in the media or in the media? So if the religious leaders spread the ideologies as said by the government through the social media, because we know that social media is more open, and if we need to ban, if we have to really know that the ideology is really good, the ideology is really bad, and then the account is only banned after that. So in the meantime, the ideology has already spread towards the people, and the people have already the religious leaders have already accomplish their goals, if it's their goals to spread this ideology in the first place. So sorry. Before I end my case, I would want to state that as my second speaker will give on the points so that there are no other further miscommunication. My second speaker will be argumenting on the fact that by forbidding these religious leaders from publicly expressing their opinions on political matters, it will jeopardize sorry, will jeopardize and it will jeopardize the politic standing in the government, because more corruptions can occur, and it will the secularism will be more obvious. And to end my case, to end my speech, I want to restate the stance of the opposition. We as the opposition, we don't want to ostracize the voice of religious leaders from involving in political matters. That's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you to the Leader of Opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 34 seconds. We shall now hear the speech from the Deputy Prime Minister. The floor is yours.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I shall begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To all the audience and to the educators and to the respective opponents. So before I begin, I want to cover again the motion of today is that our house would forbid the religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters, because this is the best way to maintain the peace in the country. And to begin, To begin my speech, I will start with a few rebuttals given by the leader of the opposition. So first of all, they did mention, why are we only targeting the religious leaders? So here, the religious leaders are more vocal, more influential, and they are more common to be found now. So if we are not controlling them, putting a control or putting a leash on their actions, it might cause a very detrimental effects. For example, religiously motivated violence that is already happening around the world, like such as the concentration camp in China, and also the Hindu slaughtering the Muslims in India. Yes, UI.
You see that religious leaders have influential power because they have many followers, right? So what if they induce riot? What do you respond?
What? Can you repeat the second part?
If we forbid them from speaking up their opinion, how would the government control if they induce riot among citizens?
So if the government can successfully impose the law of banning the religious leaders from publicly expressing their opinions in the media or public speech, this will create a tendency. This will at least controls them and reinforced by police force. This will control them not to openly express the opinions on the wrong part of the political matters that have been done in the country or unsatisfaction by them in the country. And this will how can a riot start? A riot can start from a sharing of idea or them sharing the same idea shared around. So that will start causing a riot. But if we control it, the message given by them in any channels, of course, we need a very attentive monitoring. But if we can do it, if the government will do it, this can induce less riots. So moving on into my points, to elaborate more on my Prime Minister from under the section of influence, is that these religious leaders, when they publicly express their opinions, they could tend to be more. First of all, we will not know, because it's an opinion. It is an opinion, and we will not know if it is right. But they hold the power and they hold the influence, and they have a high number of people that respect them, listen to them. So if they publicly express their opinions, but it is just an opinion. So an opinion that weighs very heavily can really move the people and cause more riots and cause infighting in the country against the government. Also, these religious leaders can also be corrupt. So, because there are many people who are lying for personal satisfaction, personal greed. So these people, people cannot stay the same forever. Maybe they, and on the outside, they are practicing all these rituals, all these steps, and then showing to the public that they are good. But inside, they may be corrupted. They may get involved in, they may accept bribes from one political party that is joining the parliament, or they are fighting for the ruling party in the country. This will threaten the overall democracy of the country. So, for example, if they are expressing their opinion on one political party, for example, the communists, okay, in China, if they are supporting it, if they are against it in China, this will lead to a faction, like my Prime Minister mentioned. This will create the faction between them and may cause infighting, and they will threaten the peace inside the country. This leads to my third point, which is
So, PI.
before I move on, please give your POI.
Okay, so how could you prove that religious leaders are only the ones that are accepting bribe from political leaders? So why can't anyone? Why are you just focusing on them as the sole figure that just accepts bribe?
Okay, you are taking to. I'm sorry, but I do understand. Religious leaders. We are not saying that religious leaders are the only sole responsible, the ones who are responsible for it. But they do play a major role in influencing and moving majority of the citizens in the country. So, and we can focus on what we can control. So these religious leaders are visible, are obvious. So they are there. We know they are there. So we can focus on just on controlling them first, and then attending to the other matters. And then I also want to mention that by publicly expressing their opinions could majorly leads to oppression instead of riots, because it may goes in two ways. They might go against equally in power, or if they are the minorities, they will get the oppression given by the government itself. So to conclude, I have mentioned my points, and because proof of my points shows that the government still stands that we will forbid religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters. Thank you.
Thank you to the Deputy Prime Minister for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 9 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon Deputy Leader of Opposition to deliver his speech. The floor is yours.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for the QIDB for giving me the chance to speak here, and I address to all the educators, the honorable educators, and also my fellow educators. Okay, so I found many flaws in the government where they just state about how religious leaders could just induce such riot and such rebellious act on the government. But I'm sorry to say, but I'm sorry to say, but I don't think you have addressed the real situation here. You are forbidding religious leaders to actively, religious leaders to from publicly expressing opinion on political matters. So you didn't say on why they want to publicly expressing opinion on political matters. Okay, so I will reply that again. Okay, so first of all, the Prime Minister has stated that they want to enforce law that to ban them from speaking publicly. Okay, that's the mechanism. Okay, I will see that it is such injustice, because a law needs to be enforced, and why them religious leaders, they're just human and they have done nothing wrong, and you are just banning them from speaking, from expressing out their opinion. Okay, so that's really, and so that shows a bit so that shows a lot of injustice in the part of government. Okay, wait, okay, so next, religion, they could easily be flipped towards the evil by malicious intent. Okay, so I would like to say that this is a terrible example, because when religious is people having faith. So by having faith, they will okay. So by having faith, why are you connecting the evil towards faith? You are messing with the actual meaning of faith. Okay, so so you said that it is not only religious people that could be inside. By pointing out that, it means that only religious people could easily be flipped towards evil. religious leaders have the power to do so. So you're saying that they are the bad people. They should not be incited towards anything. So that is not true in the whole context of religious people, religious leaders. Okay, so so the different. So for the fault of Deputy Prime Minister, I see that he said that religions are more influential. So why religions are more influential? Because people are giving faith to them. So why should we control it? No, we should not put a control on them, because they are spreading what is true, what is the truth in their belief, and they just want to enforce faith on people. Okay, so what also and then they also say that we will not know if it's right. So religious or religious opinion in political matters, they usually tell what good for people, what good in the forming of laws, enforcement in politics. Okay, so and also the Deputy Prime Minister also said that they may accept bribes from political party. Are you mentioning that they are the only one that could accept bribe? I've seen that countries that with no religious, secular countries, they are the one of the most countries that are accepting really bribes these days. So many corruption happen due to the absence of religion, which I will say in my point later. KPI.
You mentioned, okay, first of all, you mentioned that we're not giving a voice to religious leaders. However, I've already said that we are going to give a concession for them to reach out to the government via representatives or consultants to present their own points of view. Okay, number two, okay, never mind about that.
Okay, so you said that, but it is not true that entirely that really you said that ambassadors of the religious leaders may be corrupted. So that is so weak. That is so weak in your point, because religious leaders are usually people that work with their faith. They are not influenced by wealth or by world's wealth. Okay, so so my point is with the point of forbidding religious leaders from publicly expressing opinion on political matters. First of all, more corruption in politics could occur because of the less uphold of the religious issue on law enforcement. I repeat, in law enforcement in politics. So I don't think Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister has said anything about what are the effects of the opinion of the religious leaders towards the politics. So I would like to say that by allowing religious leaders from expressing opinion on political matters, it will help to enforce the law by having them adhere correctly to the faithful way of religion, whereas religion only induces people with faith to give to be better people, to be faithful towards their creator, and also be faithful towards their own welfare. So they would not be endorsed. So by political means, it means that we are forcing we will be enforcing a law that doesn't allow people to cause more harm than to cause more good. Okay, so I see that the government failed to see that, and also this is proven in scientific research in 2016, whereas in 2000 to 2015 in the secular countries, whereas the law of faith are less abiding, the rate of drugs and the rates of drugs and crimes that occur are increasing. Okay, so that's next. That's it. Because it induces secularism in political issues. So it is not supposed to be in political issues. Secularism is. Okay, next. If the government win, it means that this is my second point, in which the House if the House would forbid the religious leaders from publicly expressing opinion on political matters. If we do that, does it mean that we are banning them as human? We are banning them from from being political leaders. They are also human. So why should they? As they have their own faithful believers, why couldn't they become political leaders? And if we do that, does it mean that we want to abolish the religious party that already has been existing in the world for so long? Is that what you want to do? Okay, so I'm addressing the government critically on these two matters, and why we as opposition have shown a better side of the debate. Okay, I speak that. Thank you.
Thank you to the Deputy Leader of Opposition for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 29 seconds. Now, we shall hear the speech from the government whip.
In 3, 2, 1, I will start. Respect to the educators and fellow debaters. Today's evenings, I will start. I'll give the applause of the opposition teams. First of all, I will try to state our stance that this House prohibits religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters. The opposition teams states some of the points to the government's teams, but we find that the opposition team has some flaws, significant flaws that we will try to elaborate. First of all, we will talk. The leader of opposition says about this religious leader are still human. They still have the right to speak up. Our government teams already rebutted when people also have rights expressing their fear to this religious leader. And what does this religious leader have over rights than this number of people? Primarily, we need to compare between the leaders and the normal citizens, whose influential power is bigger. When we look at this religious leader, obviously, we look the religious leader have more influential power than the normal citizens. When normal citizens expressing their views and opinions, there is a small minority will look. But if this religious leaders spoke even a word, all the nations will heard it, because the influential power that they have. And this will create a problem. The deputy leader of opposition states about this: there are injustice. These people are just people. Oh, they keep saying the same thing. I'm sorry. And Allah publicly expressing their opinions. Okay, I'm sorry. They also, deputy leader of opposition also state about religious people just want to tell the truth. Okay, how do you want to convince us that this religious leader tell the truth? Okay.
So I was not saying about we just want to say the truth. We just want to say about why can't they be true? Why can't faith be true? Okay, that's for me.
Why can't the faith be true? Look, we live in the real world. Unfortunately, many religious leaders are right-wing extremists, misinterpret the scripture and religious teaching. We are not imposing in their religious activities, but we fear that these religious people will abuse their power and political influence to cause a riot, and people will try to support this religious leader. The next one, we want to talk about this questions before PIs from the opposition team. How do you so convince on these religious people will have the corruptions? So the answer is mostly because influential power they caught of their follower rather than leader without religions. This religious leader will have follower of their own religions. Because of this power of this influence, they primarily the one who got corruptions because the power of their gods rather than normal leaders. Because normal leaders hardly have followers because they have not connections other between the religions. Because the religions is primarily the primary aspects of this religious leader got the influence power. Move to the next one. From the deputy leader of oppositions, they says that religious leader is about religious leader cannot become political leaders and publicly express we said that they should not publicly express their opinions. What do we mean? What we mean by the publicly is they should not talk their opinions to the media, to the newspaper, and they should almost supposed to discuss with the others, the other leaders, because we believe that this expressing opinions because of their upbringings of religions, their religious upbringings will what do you call it? Will have it. They naturally talk about expressing their emotions on their religion side. This this religious leader, we as the government team fear a lot the religious leaders could cause a riot and will mislead the people. From and will mislead the people and will not be able to. We will not be able to keep people from following this religious leader. Last but not least, we want to reaffirm our stance that this House will forbid religious leaders from publicly expressing opinions on political matters.
Thank you to the government whip for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 7 seconds. Now, I would like to call upon the opposition whip to deliver her speech. The floor is yours.
Please give me a moment. Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Assalamualaikum and a very pleasant evening. I be to experienced panel of adjudicators, meticulous timekeeper, formidable opponents on the government side, allies on side of opposition, and everybody present in this meeting today. So here's how I'm going to structure my speech. Firstly, I'll clarify the context of today's debate and I provide rebuttals given by the argument by the government side. Secondly, I'll compare both cases coming from government and opposition, and I'll show you which world and paradigm is better for you to live in. Lastly, I'll show you the outcome of today's debate and what happens if either of us if the opposition stands. Okay. we believe that in order for this debate to progress, there must be clashes of point to exist. However, the government has been trying to debate in bubble and not engage with any of the points given by the opposition because they do not provide us with a clear mechanism. First of all, their mechanism on banning the religious leader to speak up publicly their opinion regarding political matters is that first they say upon speaking publicly on other regardless of the platform on social media or in a public gathering, they would ban this religious leader. And secondly, their mechanism is to allow this religious leader to have ambassador or maybe a law authority to be reached out to so that they can also express their concerns. But then, ladies and gentlemen, here I want to rebut. I will start with my rebuttals. Okay, if we ban the religious leader once they speak up publicly, now do you want to? How do you exactly want to do the banning? Do you want to put them up in cellar for 5 years because they're speaking up their thoughts? What if they what if they publicly comment positive things about political issue and not actually spreading ideology? Will you actually still ban them because you do not clarify exactly what specifically public opinions are you are regretting? And then religious leaders are also, like the Prime Minister has mentioned to us today, they are catering to some of the stakeholders, which is citizens, religious leaders, and political parties. So religious leaders are also citizens of that state country, and they are some of them might be political figures. So could you, if you say that these religious have, I'm sorry, I'll take you later. If you say that these religious leaders have so much influence over the citizens of the country, do you not think that also a political figure also have influence over their citizens? So religious leaders are also speaking up for their country's good, okay? So they might as well be spiritually patriotic. They are speaking up in the first place because they want the government to do some social or political reform. They are becoming the bridge. They are becoming the mediator between their followers and to the government. So whatever it is that they're bringing, it's not necessarily wrong. And how would you actually put the countries such as France, which are majority of the citizens are Christian? How would you expect if you are banning this religious leader from publicly expressing their opinion? How would you expect this country to survive? Oh, of course, this country would meet destruction, ladies and gentlemen, because these countries are heavily influenced by their religious leaders, like what I understand from the government stand, right? So if they are banned from speaking up their opinion, how can these changes that they are trying to bring and push to the government will be settled? Because they are also citizens of that country. So moving on to clashes of point, I'll be rebutting the Prime Minister first. I'm sorry, I'll take you later. So the Prime Minister has mentioned to us that this religious leader used their religious purpose to impose their hidden ideologies, right? So social media has a huge influence on users, right? But some awareness regarding the ideologies of this certain religious leader are also spread by other religious leaders. Not all religious leaders are bad, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the religious leader might go against another religious leader in order to help to clarify to the users of social media that these ideologies are wrong. So therefore why we cannot radically ban this religious leader from speaking up their mind. Because if this happen, would you rather see the citizens of our country or any other country that is involved in this matter be corrupted just because we are denying the freedom of speech of that certain religious leader? So this is also going against freedom of speech. So if these religious leaders are banned from publicly expressing their thoughts, okay, they are being stripped of their rights to express their opinion just because certain people or certain religious leaders, certain bad religious leaders are hiding their intentions behind religion, right? So how would you, I'm sorry, I cannot take that. How will you actually ban all of their action? Okay, you said just now that religious leaders have influence of due to their huge amount of followers. So this would induce not on riot and spark rebellious act among the followers of religious leaders. So why do this happen? Because their freedom of speech is not in their own hand. The government now is oppressing their rights, freedom of speech. Okay, so the government needs to cater to the needs of their citizens. So the religious leader is also a part of their citizens. So they might as well account for a huge chunk of the total population. I'm sorry, I cannot take your POI. Okay, next I'll be rebutting the point coming from the DPM. Religious leader can be corrupted. Why you only banning religious leader anyway? Are you suggesting that political figures are free from corruption? If you are worried that much about their influence, about their huge influence, political figures also have great influence on their followers. Their forefront of spreading ideologies might not be hiding behind religion intention. Their forefront might be different from religious leader. They might use their wealth or power to induce policymaker. So why are you only focusing on banning religious leader when there is also corruption coming from the political figure? Okay, so what about psychological? Okay. So you also said that if they only expressing your opinion in public, so does that mean you are allowing them to do their illegal activity or heinous activity or whatever you're claiming it is in secret? So I'm going to point out the worst case scenario if the government were to win. Okay, so in their best case scenario, if today's motion stands, more unwanted riots and rebellious acts will happen in the country, since the government said that the religious leader have big influence over their followers. So if we win, if the opposition win today, religious leader could stand a chance to still contribute to political and social reform, which could make the country a better place to live in, because corruption does not come from religious leaders alone. Thank you very much. With that, I raise my case.
Thank you to the opposition whip for the speech. The speaker spoke for 7 minutes and 25 seconds. Now, both of the government and opposition are being given 1 minute to prepare for their reply speech. The 1 minute will start now. The time is up. I would like to call upon the speaker from the opposition side to deliver their reply speech. The floor is yours.
Okay, so can you guys hear and hear me clearly?
Yes.
So so I'm as the reply for today, and let me take my just kidding. Okay, so I'm going to be starting my reply speech in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so for okay, so I would like to state out why the government has failed to achieve their own goals by the debate by the end of debate that they just end with the government. Okay, so first of all, they have failed to establish or to acknowledge what their mechanism is to our debate today. So they just state out the debate. So they just state out the mechanism on the prime minister side and fail to show on the next and the last debate of the last side of the government to show that how can we enable the mechanism? Okay, so that's it for that's for the failure of government in their own mechanism that I've seen in the that should be their flaw in this debate. Okay, so next, they okay, so they are not clear about why do we no, I'm sorry. They are not why we should win is that we are clearly fighting for the freedom of speech, and we want to show that religious leaders are not as bad as one could perceive. As in the government said, government only shows government only shows the bad side of the religious leaders because they want to ban them. So we as opposition, we have come up with a better way. We have come up with a better example on how religious leaders could form the political matter better and better than the government have stated out, and how they by using their influence they could also give a better example of a better reformation of the law enforcement in politics. Okay, so the government has failed to address all that. And next, why they fail is because they keep repeating on what is keep repeating, and in religious leaders could cause riot. So it's not entirely true because all as the whip says before, not all religious leaders are bad. When some good religious leaders like the government, like the opposition whip said, they would fight the other religious leaders to preserve the truth, of faith. Okay, so that's why the opposition has shown. That's why the opposition has shown that they have better understanding of the motion, and why we should be the ban on the motion of the House would forbidden religious leaders from expressing opinion on political matters has fallen, and why we have proven that by allowing religious leaders to express opinion, we could cause less corruption in the politics by showing some statistics, and also by we have given proof that they could not rebut on why the government has shown that they themselves could not prevent the corruption to occur. Okay, so with that, I think so. The best case for that, I strongly adhere to ladies and gentlemen that to choose well, to choose whether to forbid religious leaders, and so the worst case scenario could happen, or we want to allow religious leaders. Okay, so I will let the adjudicators choose the right side. Choose FPSKB. Thank you.
Now, to conclude, let's welcome the speaker from the government side to give their reply speech.
All right, I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. The debate today, the main issue of today's debate is hinged upon safety versus freedom of expression. We believe, as the government, that we provide the best balance between this safety and freedom of expression. We have catered to all stakeholders, and let me break these stakeholders down for you one by one. Number one, the citizens. Citizens, we as the society have a right to feel safe. Minorities have a right to feel safe and secure. If we give all religious leaders a right to speak and say whatever they want, propagate hate, propagate propaganda, propagate issues where the larger ruling party are imposing upon the rights upon the smaller minority, if we give them the right to say whatever they want, they are putting these minorities at risk of xenophobic and religious-based oppression. This is a targeted oppression, and this has this has many cases throughout history. If you look at the issues of violence against Muslims by the Hindus in India, it was supposed to be a secular state, but the minorities have been put down. Okay, so one, we've catered towards the citizens. We've proven that they have a right to feel safe. Number two, we have also catered towards the religious authorities, unlike what the opposition might have you believe. Religious authorities and leaders under our mechanism are given a chance to speak and influence the parliament via representatives, which we have given in our mechanism in the opening of our debate. We have said that we allow representatives and consultants from religious authorities, religious groups, the main religious board, not these minorities, not these religious groups that may be corrupt, may portray the wrong form of the religion. We have given them a chance to speak up in parliament, given them a right to speak and freedom of expression. So the opposition's argument is null. And number three, the third stakeholder that we have catered towards, and they would be satisfied with our system, is the political movements and the government parties themselves. We have catered for them by upholding the values and ideals of democracy, which is pretty much the very fabric of Western society. How are we going to portray ourselves as a democratic nation, a democratic society, when people from the outside, religious leaders, are portraying their own opinions and values upon the people of society and influencing a potentially safe ballot? So democracy should be unbiased, just, and without any external influence. Religious leaders, especially those that can be corrupt, as we've talked about in our debate, threaten the status quo by creating a secondary influence that may prevent the course of a fair election. The opposition's argument hinges upon two main parts. They have said that religious leaders are human too, they deserve a voice. The fact of the matter is, we don't live in a utopia. We don't live in a world where everyone follows the religious scriptures to the dot. The fact of the matter is, religious leaders are corrupt. They're not inherently good. And history has taught this time and time again. Even religious religions, such as Buddhism, which are often associated with peace, are not immune to this violence, as evidenced by the violence against the Myanmar Muslims in Burma by majority Buddhists. They said that religious leaders are human too, they deserve a voice. However, the fact of the matter is, again, you cannot deny that religious leaders are not the average citizen. We have defined them as having a base of followers. And by definition, if you have a base of followers, you have an influence. And this is dangerous. If people have influence and they're portraying the wrong opinions, this is putting everyone at risk. Are you going to put the safety of the citizens at risk? How are you going to stand by and let history repeat itself? To conclude our argument, the best way to maintain safety of our citizens is to provide a clear divide between religion and an unbiased government system. And ultimately, we have proven without a doubt that our system is the best, and this motion must pass to ensure the safety and ensure the safety of our citizens and the ideals of the democracy that we all stand for. Thank you very much.
That is all for this round's debate session. On behalf of the House, I would like to thank all of the adjudicators for their assistance, and congratulations to all of the debaters for your performance. So with that, all the debaters may dismiss.